I, 34 am. Never thought I'd be one of those guys posting about their failing marriage on Reddit, but here I am, desperate for some perspective. My wife, 32F, and I have been married for 6 years, together for 9. Until recently, I thought we had a solid relationship. Now I'm sleeping in the guest room, and she's demanding a divorce. It all started about 3 months ago when her mother had a health scare. A minor stroke that thankfully didn't leave any permanent damage, but it shook my wife to the core. Her mom lives about 2 hours away, and my wife started making the trip to see her every weekend. I was supportive. Family comes first, right? I'd handle things at home, take care of our dog, and make sure everything was ready for her return on Sunday nights. Around the same time, I got passed over for a promotion at work that I'd been gunning for. It hit me hard, and I was admittedly in a funk for a couple of weeks. My wife was sympathetic at first, but as her stress about her mom increased, her patience with my mood decreased. Then came the financial strain. The trips to see her mom were adding up: gas, meals out, little gifts to cheer her mom up. Meanwhile, with me missing that promotion, our budget was tighter than we'd planned. I suggested cutting back on some discretionary spending until things stabilized. This is where things really started to deteriorate. My wife accused me of being controlling about money. I tried to explain it was just temporary belt tightening, but she wouldn't hear it. She started making snide comments about how I couldn't provide properly. Last month, her childhood friend Sam moved back to town after a divorce. My wife started meeting him for coffee or drinks to catch up. I didn't think much of it at first. They've known each other since elementary school. But the frequency increased, and she'd come home happier from those meetups than I'd seen her in weeks. When I asked about Sam, she'd get defensive. He actually listens to me, she'd say. He doesn't make everything about himself. 2 weeks ago, I found a receipt for an expensive dinner at a place we used to go for anniversaries. When I asked about it, she admitted she'd gone with Sam, but insisted I was overreacting. I expressed that while I trusted her, I was uncomfortable with the situation. That's when she first called me a simp, a word I'd never heard her use before. She said I was being pathetically clingy and that it was annoying how I couldn't give her space. The next day, I noticed she'd changed her phone password. When I mentioned it casually, she exploded, accusing me of spying on her. The fight escalated until she told me to sleep in the guest room. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. This pattern continued for days, cold distance punctuated by flashes of the woman I married. It was emotional whiplash. I tried to talk about what was happening, but she'd shut down or change the subject. I started walking on eggshells, afraid of triggering another outburst. Concerned, I reached out to her sister, Emily, who's always been close to both of us. Emily seemed uncomfortable and evasive. She finally admitted that my wife had been sharing some concerns about our marriage but wouldn't elaborate. I asked if Sam was part of the issue. Emily's hesitation told me everything before she mumbled something about them having reconnected on a deeper level. Still, I wasn't ready to assume the worst. I suggested marriage counseling. My wife laughed and said, "Classic simp move. Thinking some stranger can fix what you broke." When I asked what exactly I'd broken, she gave me a laundry list of grievances that felt like they came out of nowhere. I was too emotional about losing the promotion. I was suffocating her with my concern about her mom. I was financially controlling for suggesting budget cuts. I was insecure and jealous about Sam. And worst of all, I had lost my edge and become soft and boring. I didn't recognize this version of me she was describing. The man who had supported her through grad school, who had nursed her through a devastating bout of depression 3 years ago, who had put his own career opportunities on hold when she wanted to relocate for her dream job. That man was now being recast as some pathetic, controlling loser. Last week, I found a brochure for a local apartment complex in her purse while looking for car keys. When confronted, she didn't even deny it. "I need my own space," she said coldly. "This isn't working anymore." I asked if there was someone else. She didn't answer directly but said, "Even if there was, could you blame me? You're not the man I married." That night, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs around 3 a.m. and found her laptop open. I'm not proud of what I did next, but desperation makes you do things you'd normally never consider. I checked her email. There it was, a thread with Sam, discussing their situation. They hadn't slept together, from what I could tell, but the emotional affair was obvious. They were making plans for when things settled down. When she came down for coffee the next morning, I told her what I'd found. I expected denial, anger, maybe even shame. Instead, she looked almost relieved. "Well, now you know," she said flatly. "I want a divorce." I asked if she was in love with Sam. She shrugged. "He reminds me of who I used to be before I settled into this boring life. He challenges me. He doesn't need constant reassurance or act like a wounded puppy when things get tough." "When did I become someone you despise?" I asked, my voice breaking despite my best efforts. When you stopped being a partner and started being an annoying responsibility, she replied. Her words cut deeper than any knife could. That night, I called my brother and talked for hours. He reminded me of something important. This radical personality change and rewriting of our history wasn't normal. He suggested I look at the bigger picture. The next day, I did some digging. I called my mother-in-law directly, something I rarely did out of respect for my wife's role as the communication bridge with her family. Her mother was surprised to hear from me, and even more surprised when I mentioned her health. What health problems? She asked. The stroke, I explained. There was a long pause. I had a minor fall in February, but no stroke. Who told you that? My stomach dropped. I carefully asked how often my wife had been visiting. Once last month, she replied. I've been telling her not to make the drive so often, but you know how she is. I thanked her and hung up, my mind racing. Where had my wife been going all those weekends? The answer seemed obvious now. I went through our shared credit card statements more carefully. There were hotel charges in our town on weekends when she was supposedly visiting her mother, restaurant bills for two at places I'd never been, and a charge from a jewelry store I didn't recognize. I confronted her that evening with the evidence. For the first time in months, the cold mask slipped, and I saw panic in her eyes. Then anger. She accused me of spying on her and violating her privacy. When that didn't work, she broke down crying, claiming she needed space to figure things out, and the hotels were just her personal retreats. And the jewelry? I asked quietly. She couldn't meet my eyes. A gift for myself, she mumbled unconvincingly. I felt strangely calm. I think we both know what's been happening, I said. I'm not a simp for loving you and supporting you. I'm not annoying for caring about our marriage. But I do deserve the truth. After more denials and deflections, the truth finally emerged. She and Sam had been seeing each other for months, long before her made-up story about her mother's stroke. The reconnection went back almost a year, starting with social media messages while he was still married. Her sudden criticism of me, the rewriting of our history, the contempt, classic affair fog, my brother had called it. A way to justify her betrayal by vilifying me. I want you to move out. I told her, my voice steadier than I felt. You can go be with Sam without the lies. She looked shocked. This wasn't the script she had written where I begged her to stay or accepted blame for her choices. For the first time, she seemed to realize what she was actually losing. 2 days later, she moved out. I filed for divorce the next week, citing infidelity. When mutual friends asked what happened, I told the simple truth without embellishment. Her sister Emily called me yesterday. Apparently, my soon-to-be ex is telling anyone who'll listen that I was controlling and emotionally abusive, that I called her horrible names and tracked her movements. The classic Darvo, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. But here's the thing. The people who truly know me aren't buying it. And I'm discovering that I'm stronger than I thought. This pain has an expiration date. Her character assassination says more about her than me. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. Being called a simp for loving your wife isn't the insult she thought it was. It just showed me who she'd become, and that's someone I don't want to be married to anymore.